The day I discovered my husband's betrayal wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of my empire. If you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or betrayed, stick around, because this story might just give you the inspiration you need to turn your pain into power. Before we dive deeper, take a moment to let me know where you're watching from, and if you believe in karma, hit that subscribe button, because trust me, this story serves it on a silver platter. It started on an ordinary Tuesday morning in my corner office at Morrison & Reed investment firm, where I'd spent the last decade building my career as a financial strategist. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my best friend Maya's message lit up my screen. "Becca, check your email. Now." The urgency in her tone made my stomach twist. Maya, being one of the city's top corporate lawyers, never panicked over nothing. The email contained a forwarded company newsletter from Tech Vision Solutions, my husband Drew's company, announcing internal promotions. There, in high-resolution glory, was a photo of my husband of 8 years, arm-wrapped professionally, but too professionally, around his secretary, Olivia Parker, as he announced her well-deserved promotion to Chief of Staff. The way they looked at each other in that photo. I knew that look. It was the same look he used to give me back when we were first dating. I sat there, staring at my dual monitors, one displaying profit margins I'd helped clients achieve, the other showing my husband's betrayal in vivid corporate photography. My hands trembled as I clicked through to Tech Vision's internal website. Drew never knew I had login credentials, a perk of setting up their initial security systems when he started the company. What I found made my blood run cold. A trail of approved expense reports, late-night client meetings at the city's most romantic restaurants, business trips to Paris and Tokyo where Drew had supposedly gone alone, a $15,000 office renovation that coincidentally matched the price tag of the Cartier bracelet I'd spotted on Olivia's wrist last month at the company Christmas party. The very party where she'd smiled sweetly and thanked me for being such a supportive wife to Drew during his long work hours. My phone buzzed again. Maya was calling. "Tell me you're sitting down," she said when I answered, "because what I'm about to share will make that newsletter look like child's play." Maya had already begun pulling threads, and those threads were unraveling something much bigger than an office affair. "Tech Vision is in trouble, Becca. Serious trouble. Drew's been cooking the books, moving money around like a shell game artist on steroids. The company's worth half of what investors think it is, and guess whose signature is on half the fraudulent documents? Yours." The world tilted on its axis. I glanced at the framed photo on my desk, Drew and me at his company launch party 5 years ago. I'd been so proud that day, watching my husband fulfill his dreams of running his own tech company. I'd even taken a step back in my own career to help him get started, using my financial expertise to set up his corporate structure, introducing him to potential investors, co-signing loans because my credit rating was better. "How bad?" I whispered. Into the phone. "Bad enough that when this hits the fan, you could be implicated if we don't move fast. But Becca..." Maya paused, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "If we play this right, you could end up owning everything." As I sat there, watching another company-wide email pop up announcing a celebratory dinner for Olivia's promotion, something inside me shifted. The hurt was still there, but it was crystallizing into something harder, sharper, more purposeful. Drew had always joked that I was too nice for the cutthroat world of corporate finance. He'd called my ethical investment strategies cute and idealistic. Well, maybe it was time to show him and his precious new chief of staff exactly what this nice wife could do. Because while they were planning their celebration dinner, I was about to start planning something much bigger, a corporate takeover that would make business school case studies look like bedtime stories. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a business card I'd kept for emergencies, Dr. Marcus Torres, forensic financial investigator. If Drew thought he could forge my signature and gamble with my future, He was about to learn a very expensive lesson about underestimating the woman who had actually read and understood every word of his company's bylaws. "Maya," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Clear your schedule. We're going to need that brilliant legal mind of yours. It's time to show Drew exactly who he married and who he's about to lose. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success, it's becoming your ex's boss." Dr. Marcus Torres's office embodied everything I knew about forensic accounting: meticulous, organized, and revealing secrets hidden in plain sight. As I spread out, the documents I'd gathered, his eyes narrowed behind rimless glasses. Financial statements, expense reports, board meeting minutes. 5 years of TechVision's history laid bare on his mahogany desk. "Mrs. Morgan," he began, but I cut him off. "Please, call me Rebecca." The name Morgan now tasted bitter on my tongue. He nodded, fingers dancing across his keyboard as he input preliminary data. "These signatures here," he pointed to a series of loan documents. "They're forgeries. Good ones, but definitely not yours. See the slight hesitation in the strokes? Someone studied your signature but couldn't quite capture your natural flow." I leaned closer, my suspicions confirmed. Drew hadn't just betrayed our marriage. He'd committed fraud on a massive scale. Each document revealed a new layer of deception: inflated revenue reports, hidden expenses, and a complex web of shell companies, all leading back to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. My phone buzzed. Another email from Maya. She'd been working her own angle, reaching out to contacts in the corporate law world. "Check your secure folder," her message read. "You're going to want to see this." The folder contained surveillance photos from TechVision's office. Olivia, the newly minted chief of staff, wasn't just sleeping with my husband. She was his partner in crime. Images showed her entering the office at odd hours, carrying folders to late-night meetings with Drew, and a man I recognized as James Wheeler, TechVision's CFO, who had always seemed uncomfortable around me at company events. Now I knew why. "Dr. Torres," I said, pulling up TechVision's latest investor presentation. "Something doesn't add up here. The company's reporting 40% year-over-year growth, but these expense patterns." I pointed to a series of transactions that had caught my eye. He smiled, clearly impressed. "You have a good eye, Rebecca. They're using a classic pump-and-dump scheme, inflating company value through fake contracts and hidden expenses, probably planning to cash out before it all comes crashing down. Your husband's recent push for an IPO makes sense now." My mind raced. The IPO, Drew's dream of taking TechVision public. He'd been obsessing over it for months, working late nights, missing dinners. Well, now I knew what, or rather who, had really been occupying his time. A knock at the door interrupted our analysis. Catherine Williams, my former business mentor and current board member at several tech companies, strode in. I'd called her the moment Maya's first message arrived, knowing we'd need her expertise. "The board meeting minutes," she said without preamble. "They're going to be our golden ticket." She spread out another set of documents, her manicured nail pointing to specific sections. "Drew may have forged your signatures, but he got sloppy with the procedural details. Every major financial decision needed joint approval from both founders." I blinked. "But I'm not a founder." Catherine's smile was predatory. "Check your marriage date against the company's incorporation papers. TechVision was founded 2 weeks after your wedding. In this state, that makes it marital property. More importantly, Drew listed you as co-founder to secure the initial funding, trading on your reputation in the financial sector. He just never told you." The implications hit me like a tidal wave. All those times Drew had dismissed my questions about the company's finances, telling me to focus on my little investment portfolios while he handled the real business. Meanwhile, he'd used my name, my reputation, and my marriage to build his house of cards. Dr. Torres was already pulling up more documents. "These shell companies," he said, "they're registered to someone named OP Holdings." He looked at me meaningfully. "Olivia Parker," I whispered, the pieces falling into place. "She's not just his mistress. She's his exit strategy." Catherine nodded grimly. "They're planning to dump their inflated shares after the IPO, leaving the company and its investors in ruins. With your signature on key documents, you'd take the fall while they run off with millions." My hands shook as I reached for my phone, pulling up the photos from the company newsletter again. Drew and Olivia, looking at each other with what I'd thought was inappropriate workplace affection. Now I saw it for what it was. The smug satisfaction of two people who thought they'd orchestrated the perfect crime. "The promotion to chief of staff," I said slowly. "It's not about the affair at all. They're positioning her to have executive authority before the IPO." "Exactly," Maya said, walking in with another stack of papers. "But they made one crucial mistake." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The real estate holdings. She spread out property records across the desk. Every major company asset, including the headquarters, was purchased using collateral from your joint accounts and your inheritance. Drew needed your superior credit, rating and assets to secure the loans. I felt a cold smile spread across my face. "So legally, you own controlling interest in the company's physical assets," Maya confirmed. "Drew thought he was being clever, using your financial strength to build his empire. He just never imagined you'd figure it out before they could complete their exit strategy." Catherine leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with decades of corporate warfare experience. "You know what this means, Rebecca. You don't just have evidence of their fraud, you have leverage." Dr. Torres was already preparing his preliminary report. "With these findings, we can file for an emergency injunction. Freeze everything before they realize we're onto them." I stood up, smoothing down my skirt as years of boardroom negotiations took over. "No," I said, my voice calm and controlled. "We're not going to stop the IPO. We're going to let them think their plan is working perfectly." I turned to Maya. "How quickly can you set up a holding company that can't be traced back to me?" She smiled, already reaching for her phone. "Give me 2 hours." "Good." I looked at the team assembled around me. "Because we're not just going to expose their fraud. We're going to take over Tech Vision from right under their feet. And when the dust settles, Olivia Parker won't just be sleeping with my husband, she'll be working for his ex-wife." The room hummed with energy as we began plotting our counterattack. Drew had always underestimated me, treating me like a corporate trophy wife who couldn't understand his brilliant business strategies. He was about to learn that he wasn't the only one who knew how to play the game. And I played to win. The Tech Vision executive floor buzzed with pre-IPO excitement as I walked through the glass doors, heels clicking against marble floors that my inheritance had helped pay for. Employees who had known me for years as Drew's wife nodded respectfully, unaware that I was no longer playing that role. I smiled, remembering how Drew had always insisted I dress conservatively during my rare office visits, claiming it was more appropriate. Today, I wore a perfectly tailored red power suit that had been sitting unworn in my closet, his least favorite color. Standing at the reception desk was Olivia Parker herself, immaculate in designer workwear, that stolen Cartier bracelet glinting under fluorescent lights. She froze mid-conversation with her assistant, obviously unprepared for my appearance. "Rebecca, what a surprise," she managed, her practiced smile faltering slightly. "Drew's in meetings all day preparing for the IPO roadshow." "Oh, I'm not here for Drew," I replied smoothly, enjoying how her perfectly penciled eyebrows drew together in confusion. I'm here for the quarterly compliance review. As a major stakeholder, I like to stay informed. I held up a leather portfolio containing documents Maya had prepared. I'm sure, as the new chief of staff, you understand the importance of proper oversight. The color drained from her face. In her meteoric rise from secretary to C-suite, orchestrated by my husband's wandering ambitions, she'd forgotten one crucial detail. My name was still on the company's founding documents. Of course, she stammered. Let me check if our compliance officer is available. No need, I smiled, channeling every passive-aggressive corporate maneuver I'd learned over my career. I've already emailed Mr. Wheeler. He's expecting me. James Wheeler, TechVision's CFO and the third player in their little conspiracy, was about to have a very interesting morning. Making my way to the executive wing, I noted the expensive artwork on the walls, all purchased through the company's office beautification budget, according to Dr. Torres's forensic analysis. Every piece represented thousands of dollars funneled through shell companies, creating a gallery of corporate fraud hiding in plain sight. Wheeler's office door was open, and he was hunched over his desk, frantically typing. He looked up as I entered, and for a moment, I saw raw fear in his eyes before his professional mask slipped back into place. "Rebecca, what an unexpected pleasure," he began, but I cut him off by closing his office door. "Let's skip the pleasantries, James," I said, taking a seat across from him. "We both know why I'm here." I opened my portfolio and laid out 3 documents: a copy of his original employment contract, proof of his offshore accounts, and a blank resignation letter. "I don't," he started, but his shaking hands betrayed him. "2 options," I continued calmly. "You can sign this resignation letter, effective immediately, citing personal reasons. I'll even provide excellent references for your next position, somewhere far from the tech sector. Or," I pulled out my phone, showing him Dr. Torres's preliminary report. "We can discuss your role in facilitating financial fraud with the SE." Wheeler's face went through a fascinating array of emotions before settling on defeated resignation. "Drew said you'd never figure it out," he whispered. "He said you were too trusting, too focused on your own career to notice." "Drew says a lot of things," I replied, sliding a pen toward him. "He told Olivia she'd be running the company after the IPO. He told investors the technology was revolutionary. He told me he was working late at the office." I leaned forward. "The thing about lies, James, is that eventually they collapse under their own weight." He picked up the pen. "What happens after I sign? You walk out of here with your professional reputation intact, minus any connection to TechVision. The severance package is generous." I watched him scan the resignation letter. "Consider it a reward for making the right choice today." As Wheeler signed, his hands steadier now, I thought about the cascade of events this would trigger. His resignation would create just enough uncertainty to make investors nervous, driving down the expected IPO value. Meanwhile, the holding company Maya had created would be perfectly positioned to start acquiring shares at a discount. "One more thing," I said as he stood to leave. "That external hard drive on your desk, the one with the real company financials, I'll be taking that." He didn't even protest, just handed it over silently. As he walked out of his office for the last time, I saw Olivia watching from the hallway, her expression a mixture of confusion and growing alarm. She pulled out her phone, presumably to text Drew, not realizing she was just another pawn in a game she didn't fully understand. My own phone buzzed with a message from Catherine. The pieces were falling into place faster than we'd anticipated. Our shell company had already secured commitments from 3 major investors who were getting cold feet about the IPO. Drew's dream of going public was about to become his worst nightmare. I made my way to Drew's corner office, now empty, as he attended back-to-back meetings with investment bankers. The view of the city skyline was breathtaking. My husband had always known how to choose the best things in life. Too bad he never learned how to earn them, honestly. His desktop calendar caught my eye. Dinner reservations for tonight at Le Cirque, noted simply as business meeting. But a quick check of his expense reports showed a pattern. Le Cirque meant Olivia. It was their special place, where they celebrated each successful step of their plan with champagne bought with company money. I sat in his ergonomic chair, running my fingers along the desk's smooth surface. In the bottom drawer, hidden under a stack of files, I found what I was looking for: a small velvet box containing a diamond necklace. The receipt was still inside, billed to the company as Client Appreciation Gifts. Opening my laptop, I accessed the company's internal messaging system using the administrator credentials Dr. Torres had recovered. Within minutes, I had every email, every message between Drew and Olivia, every digital breadcrumb they thought was hidden. Their intimate exchanges mixed seamlessly with discussions of fraud and plans for their post-IPO future. Mrs. Morgan? Drew's assistant poked her head in. Mr. Morgan asked me to prep the conference room for the investor call at 3. Thank you, Sarah, I smiled. I think I'll sit in on that one. As a major stakeholder, I should be more involved in the IPO process, don't you think? She nodded uncertainly, clearly sensing the shift in dynamics but not understanding its implications. As she left, I opened one last email from Maya. Everything was in place. By the time Drew finished impressing potential investors with his grand vision for TechVision's future, the company's present would be slipping through his fingers. I replaced the necklace in his drawer, imagining the scene that would unfold tonight at Le Cirque. While Drew and Olivia celebrated what they thought was their impending triumph, the real victory would be taking shape in boardrooms and legal offices across the city. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about exposing lies, it's about turning them into opportunities. Standing up, I straightened a framed photo on his desk, one from the company's launch party, where I stood beaming beside him, genuinely proud of what I thought was our shared success. That woman was gone, replaced by someone stronger, smarter, and far less forgiving. Drew had taught me an expensive lesson about trust, but I was about to teach him an even costlier one about consequences. The private conference room at Goldman Stanley Investment Bank hummed with quiet power. I sat at the head of the mahogany table, surrounded by the elite team I'd assembled over the past 48 hours. These weren't just professionals. They were apex predators in their respective fields, drawn to the scent of corporate blood in the water. Elena Vasquez, the acclaimed corporate raider dubbed the Velvet Hammer by Wall Street, studied TechVision's financial documents with a practiced eye. She'd flown in from New York the moment Catherine made the call. "Your husband's clever," she mused, "but he's made a rookie mistake. He's so focused on inflating value for the IPO that he's left the company vulnerable to a hostile takeover." Next to her, Richard Chen, Maya's brother and one of Silicon Valley's top tech analysts, was dissecting TechVision's product pipeline. "The core technology is solid," he admitted, "but they're at least 18 months behind their public projections. Those government contracts Drew's been bragging about? They're contingent on meeting development milestones that are practically impossible with their current team." "That's where I come in," smiled Dr. Sarah Patel, former CTO of a Fortune 500 tech company and my latest ally. "I've already reached out to several key engineers in their development team. They're frustrated with Drew's leadership and the pressure to cut corners. One private equity offer, and they'll jump ship faster than rats from a sinking vessel." Maya, who had barely slept in the past 2 days, spread out another set of documents. "The SEC filing is ready. Once we submit this evidence of financial irregularities, the IPO will be suspended pending investigation. That's our window." I nodded, taking in the arsenal of talent and expertise around me. "Walk me through the plan again. Every detail matters." Catherine took the lead, her decades of corporate experience evident in every measured word. Phase 1 is already in motion. James Wheeler's resignation this morning sent the first ripples through the investment community. Our sources say 3 major investors have already expressed concerns about the IPO timeline. Meanwhile, Elena continued, my team has been quietly approaching TechVision's smaller shareholders. These are early employees who received stock options, now worried about the company's direction. We're offering them a premium on current valuation, cash up front, no questions asked. Richard pulled up a complex spreadsheet on the wall screen. By our calculations, we can secure 30% of the company's shares before Drew even realizes what's happening. The real estate holdings you control give you another 25% leverage. We just need to push him into one major mistake. That's where this comes in, Dr. Torres interjected, sliding a flash drive across the table. Complete documentation of every fraudulent transaction, every forged signature, every penny siphoned through those shell companies. One anonymous tip to the SEC, and the house of cards collapses. I picked up the drive, feeling its weight. Not just physical, but the power it represented. And Olivia Parker? Maya's smile was razor sharp. Already handled. Remember that Cartier bracelet? Turns out she's been running her own side scheme, skimming from the corporate accounts Drew trusted her to manage. She thought she was cleverly hiding her tracks, but she pulled out her phone, showing me a transaction record. She got sloppy, mixed personal expenses with company funds. Classic amateur move. The best part? Catherine added. She's been documenting everything. Every meeting, every transaction, every intimate moment with Drew. She thought she was building insurance for herself, but she's actually created a perfect record of their conspiracy. Elena leaned forward, her expression intense. There's something else you should know. Drew's been making moves of his own. He tried to contact 3 of my associates about emergency financing options. He's burning through cash faster than we thought. This was new information, and it changed the dynamics. The IPO isn't just about cashing out, I realized. He needs it to cover existing holes in the company's finances. Exactly, Dr. Torres confirmed. Without an immediate cash injection, TechVision will miss its next payroll. Drew's been playing a dangerous game of financial musical chairs, and the music's about to stop. Sarah Patel pulled up another document on her tablet. The development team is missing critical deadlines. Morale is at an all-time low. One push, and the whole technical division could collapse. I absorbed this information, pieces clicking into place. So we don't just have leverage, we have a ticking clock working in our favor. But we need to move fast, Maya cautioned. Drew's not stupid. Sooner or later, he'll realize what Wheeler's resignation really means. I stood up, walking to the window overlooking the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Drew was probably sitting in another conference room, convincing investors to bet millions on his house of lies. He'd always been good at selling dreams. I should know. I bought into the biggest one. Here's what we're going to do. I turned back to my team. Elena, accelerate the share purchases. I want 40% locked down by end of week, whatever it costs. Richard, start quiet conversations with their top engineers. Paint a picture of stability under new leadership. Dr. Torres, prepare the SEC filing, but don't submit it yet. It's our nuclear option. Sarah, identify the key technical talents we need to retain. Prepare retention packages that will make them think twice about any other offers. Catherine, reach out to your contacts on the board. When this hits, we'll need at least 2 directors to support an emergency leadership change. Maya, prepare the legal framework for a complete corporate restructuring. I want everything ready to execute the moment we make our move. And Drew's girlfriend, Elena asked. Olivia could be a wild card. I smiled, remembering the velvet box in Drew's desk drawer. Let them have their romantic dinner at Le Cirque tonight. Sometimes the best strategy is to let your opponents think they're winning right up until the moment they lose everything. As the team began mobilizing, each member focused on their piece of the puzzle, I felt a calm certainty settle over me. Drew had spent years building his empire on lies, thinking his wife was too trusting, too naive to see through his deceptions. He was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one you've trained yourself to underestimate. Maya caught up with me as we left the conference room. "Becca, are you sure you want to go through with this? Once we start, there's no going back." I touched the flash drive in my pocket, thinking of all the nights I'd spent alone while Drew worked late with Olivia, all the times he'd dismissed my business acumen while using my credentials to secure loans, all the dreams I'd put on hold to support his ambitions. Going back was never an option, I replied. Drew wanted to be a tech industry legend. I'm just going to help him achieve that goal, just not in the way he planned. The basement archives of Tech Vision's law firm smelled of old paper and secrets. Maya and I had been here for hours, methodically working through boxes of original incorporation documents. Even in our digital age, the most damaging evidence often lurked in forgotten paper trails. "Found it," Maya whispered, pulling out a yellowed folder. Inside was the original application for Tech Vision's first major business loan. My signature appeared on every page, signatures I'd never seen before today. But it was another document that made my blood run cold. A prenuptial agreement, dated 1 week before our wedding, supposedly signed by both Drew and me. "I never signed this," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "We never even discussed a prenup." Maya examined the document under her portable UV light. "This is high-quality forgery, probably done years ago. He was planning this from the very beginning, Becca, creating a paper trail to protect himself, while using your financial stability to build the company." My phone buzzed, a message from Elena. Our quiet campaign to acquire Tech Vision shares was proceeding faster than expected. Drew's recent aggressive behavior had scared several early-day investors, making them eager to cash out before the IPO. Their fear was our opportunity. "Mrs. Morgan?" A young paralegal appeared at the door. "There's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent." In the firm's reception area stood Amanda Chen, Tech Vision's head of product development. I'd always liked Amanda. She was brilliant, dedicated, and according to Richard's intelligence, increasingly frustrated with Drew's leadership. "I shouldn't be here," she said nervously, clutching a laptop to her chest. "But I couldn't. I couldn't stay silent anymore." She opened the laptop, pulling up a series of technical specifications. "These are the real development timelines for our government contracts. What Drew's telling investors, what he's promising in the IPO documents, it's impossible. We're at least 2 years away from delivering what he's selling." I studied the documents, my corporate strategy experience quickly grasping the implications. He's not just lying about current capabilities, he's falsifying test results. Amanda nodded miserably. "Olivia's been pressuring the team to sign off on reports we know are fake. Last week, she suggested I take an extended vacation, fully paid, of course, until after the IPO." "A bribe to keep you quiet," Maya observed, already taking notes. "There's more," Amanda continued. "The core technology, it's not entirely ours. Key components were acquired from a startup that mysteriously went bankrupt last year. A startup that Olivia Parker briefly worked for before joining Tech Vision. This was a new thread, one that needed pulling. I messaged Dr. Torres immediately, asking him to investigate the startup's demise. If Olivia had helped Drew steal intellectual property, it would add another layer to their conspiracy. Just then, Elena burst into the room, her usually composed demeanor slightly ruffled. "You need to see this now." She pulled up a financial news website on her tablet. The headline made my heart skip. "Tech Vision IPO faces scrutiny. Anonymous. Whistleblower alleges financial irregularities." It wasn't us. Maya said quickly. We haven't filed anything yet. No, Elena agreed. But guess who's been spotted having lunch with regulators? James Wheeler. Our former ally had decided to save himself by coming clean. It was happening faster than we'd planned, but that didn't mean we couldn't use it to our advantage. I turned to Amanda. How many of your team would support a change in leadership? She didn't hesitate. All of them. We believe in the technology, Mrs. Morgan. We just don't believe in Drew anymore. My phone rang. Catherine. Turn on CNBC now, she said without preamble. The office television flickered to life, showing Drew at an emergency press conference. He looked polished as ever in his bespoke suit. Olivia standing supportively behind him as he dismissed the allegations as baseless claims from disgruntled former employees. But I knew that face. The slight tightness around his eyes, the barely perceptible tremor in his left hand. Drew was terrified. He knew the house of cards was wobbling. Elena, I said, my mind racing ahead. How close are we on the share acquisitions? 38% locked down. Another 12% ready to sign once the price hits their target. I watched Drew on screen, making promises he couldn't keep about TechVision's brilliant future. Make the offers. Whatever price they want. I want controlling interest by morning. Maya raised an eyebrow. That's aggressive. The SEC investigation will tank the share price. We could get them cheaper if we wait. We're not waiting, I replied, my eyes still on the screen where Olivia was now fielding questions, her Cartier bracelet catching the camera lights. Because that's not the real whistleblower. That's just Wheeler covering himself. When the real evidence hits, we need to be in position. Amanda cleared her throat. What real evidence? I smiled, thinking of the technical documentation she'd just shared, the forged prenup in Maya's briefcase, Dr. Torres's forensic accounting report, and the damning contents of Wheeler's hard drive. Everything, and I mean everything. Elena was already on her phone, issuing orders to her team. Maya began preparing emergency injunctions. Catherine texted that she was assembling the board for an emergency session. The pieces were moving faster now, accelerated by Wheeler's unexpected confession, but we were ready. Amanda, I said, go back to the office. Keep your team calm, but make sure all project documentation is secured. When this breaks, the SEC will want to see everything. As she left, I received another message, this one from Sarah Patel. She'd found something interesting in the technical archives. Patent applications filed by the defunct startup, showing remarkable similarities to TechVision's current technology. The paper trail led straight to an offshore account controlled by Olivia Parker. Maya, I called, add intellectual property theft to the SEC filing, and get me everything you can on that startup. Employees, investors, technology. If Olivia helped Drew steal their innovation, there might be more victims willing to testify. The news coverage continued, showing analysts debating TechVision's future. Drew's carefully crafted image as a tech visionary was beginning to crack. In trying to defend against Wheeler's accusations, he'd have to reveal just enough of the company's true financial state to make investors nervous. My phone buzzed again. A message from Drew himself. We need to talk. Family dinner tonight? I showed the message to Maya, who snorted. Family dinner? While he's probably got a reservation with Olivia at Le Cirque? Actually, I smiled. That works perfectly into our plan. Elena, how long until the share transfers are complete? 3 hours, maybe 4. We'll have majority control before midnight. I typed a reply to Drew. Can't tonight. Early meeting tomorrow. Good luck with the press conference. Let him have one last evening of illusion with his beloved chief of staff. Tomorrow, they'd both learn what it meant to underestimate the woman they thought they'd fooled. Because while they were sipping champagne and dreaming of IPO millions, I'd be in a different kind of meeting, one that would determine their futures in ways they never imagined. The war room at Goldman Stanley buzzed with focused energy as midnight approached. Screens covered every wall, displaying real-time stock transactions, news feeds, and surveillance footage from TechVision's headquarters. Elena's team had commandeered the entire floor, converting it into a command center for what would become one of the most dramatic corporate takeovers in recent history. "Share acquisition complete," Elena announced, her tablet showing the final transfer confirmations. 52% controlling interest, all through shell companies that can't be traced back to you. Drew won't know what hit him until it's too late. Catherine hung up her phone, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. Board members are lined up. 3 have privately expressed they've lost confidence in Drew's leadership. 2 more are wavering. After Wheeler's SEC testimony, we'll have the votes we need for an emergency leadership change. I studied the surveillance feed showing Drew's office. He was still there, pacing, his perfectly tailored suit now wrinkled from a day of damage control. Olivia sat at her desk outside, frantically typing, probably trying to contain the growing media storm around Wheeler's whistleblower allegations. Dr. Torres just sent over the complete forensic analysis, Maya said, distributing tablets to the team. The intellectual property theft is worse than we thought. That startup Olivia worked for? They didn't just go bankrupt, they were systematically stripped of their assets through a series of shell companies, all leading back to offshore accounts controlled by Drew and Olivia. Sarah Patel, who had been quiet for the past hour, looked up from her laptop. I've been in contact with the startup's former lead engineer. He's willing to testify about how their technology was stolen. Apparently, Olivia used her position to copy their entire development database before orchestrating their financial collapse. Perfect timing, Richard added, entering the room with fresh coffee for everyone. The tech blogs are already speculating about similarities between TechVision's patents and the defunct startup's preliminary filings. Drew's carefully crafted image as an innovator is starting to unravel. My phone lit up with a message from Amanda. Emergency all-hands meeting called for tomorrow morning. Drew's trying to stop the bleeding. He's panicking, Elena observed. Wheeler's confession was just the tip of the iceberg, but Drew doesn't know how much we really have. He's trying to rally the troops before the real storm hits. I walked to the window, looking out over the city lights. Somewhere out there, Drew was probably crafting another brilliant speech, preparing to dazzle his employees with promises and explanations. He'd always been good at that, making people believe in his version of reality. Legal documents are ready, Maya announced, pulling up an extensive checklist. Emergency injunctions, SEC filings, restructuring papers, new executive contracts. The moment you give the word, we can file everything simultaneously. Catherine studied the media coverage on one of the wall screens. The timing needs to be perfect. Too early, and Drew might find a way to wriggle out. Too late, and the company could lose valuable talent in the panic. What about Olivia? Sarah asked. She's been reaching out to headhunters. 3 tech companies have already turned her down. Seems her reputation is catching up with her. I smiled, remembering the incriminating evidence we'd found on Wheeler's hard drive. Let her search. By this time tomorrow, her resume will be the least of her concerns. Elena's phone buzzed with an urgent alert. Markets reacting to the whistleblower news. TechVision's private valuation just dropped 15%. IPO investors are getting nervous. And our backup plan? I asked, turning to Richard. He nodded, pulling up another spreadsheet. Venture capital firms are standing by. The moment we take control, we can secure emergency funding to stabilize the company. They trust your leadership more than Drew's promises. Maya handed me a final document, the coup de grace in our plan. Your original marriage certificate, plus documentation of every asset Drew acquired using your credit and inheritance. The prenup he forged? It actually works in our favor. His clumsy attempt to protect himself gave us the legal leverage to take everything. I reviewed the papers, each page representing another nail in the coffin of Drew's ambitions. What's our timeline? Catherine consulted her watch. Board meeting convenes at 9 a.m. Media outlets are already set up outside TechVision's headquarters for Drew's damage control press conference. Perfect backdrop for what's really going to happen. Security teams? I asked. Ready to move, Elena confirmed. The moment we file the injunctions, they'll secure all offices, servers, and documents. Drew and Olivia won't have a chance to destroy evidence. Sarah's laptop pinged with new information. Drew's just sent an email to all department heads. He's claiming Wheeler's accusations are part of a competitor's smear campaign. Classic misdirection. Let him dig himself deeper, Maya advised. Every false statement now becomes another violation we can add to the SEC complaint. I sat down at the head of the conference table, looking at my assembled team. Brilliant women and men who had come together to right a wrong and save a company from a fraud who had underestimated his wife one too many times. Tomorrow morning, I began. Drew will walk into that all-hands meeting expecting to see scared employees ready to believe his lies. Instead, he'll find new security badges being distributed, new protocols in place, and a board of directors ready to vote him out. And Olivia, Elena asked, will learn that her promotion to chief of staff comes with an unexpected consequence: legal responsibility for the decisions she helped Drew make. Every fraudulent document she signed, every piece of stolen technology she helped acquire, every dollar she helped embezzle. It all comes back to her now. Catherine raised her coffee cup in a toast. To corporate karma. Not karma, I corrected her. Justice. Clean, legal, by-the-book justice that will dismantle Drew's house of cards. In broad daylight, the screens continued to flash with updates, stock prices, media speculation, internal emails flying back and forth at TechVision as rumors spread. Drew thought he was fighting a small brush fire ignited by Wheeler's confession. He had no idea he was standing in the middle of a forest primed to burn. Get some rest, I told my team. Tomorrow, we rewrite TechVision's future. And Drew? He gets to watch from the sidelines as his wife, the one he thought was too naive to understand his brilliant business mind, takes control of everything he tried to steal. As the team dispersed, Maya lingered behind. Are you ready for this? Becca? Once we start, there's no middle ground. It's all or nothing. I picked up my phone, looking one last time at Drew's message about family dinner. He had his chance at middle ground. He chose deception. Tomorrow, he learns that some mistakes cost everything. 9 a.m. sharp at TechVision headquarters. The tension in the main conference room was electric as employees filed in, whispering among themselves about Wheeler's accusations and the company's plummeting private valuation. Drew stood at the front, exuding his trademark confidence in a fresh suit, while Olivia hovered nearby, her designer outfit and stolen Cartier bracelet a stark reminder of their betrayal. I chose that moment to walk in through the side door, followed by Maya, Elena, and a team of security personnel. Drew's face flickered with momentary confusion before his salesman's smile took over. Becca, honey, this isn't a great time. We're having an important company meeting. Oh, I know exactly what kind of meeting this is, I interrupted, my voice carrying across the now silent room. In fact, I called it. Olivia stepped forward, her professional mask slipping slightly. I'm sorry, but this is a closed meeting for essential personnel only. You're right, Olivia. It is for essential personnel, which is why security will be escorting you and Drew out after the board's announcement. The side doors opened again, revealing Catherine flanked by board members. The confusion in the room was palpable as Richard and Sarah took positions near the technical team, offering silent reassurance to the nervous engineers. What board announcement? Drew demanded, his composure cracking. I'm the CEO. I called this meeting. Catherine stepped forward, her voice carrying the weight of decades in corporate governance. As of 8 a.m. this morning, the board has voted to remove Andrew Morgan as CEO of TechVision, effective immediately. This decision comes in light of substantial evidence of financial misconduct, intellectual property theft, and securities fraud. The room erupted in murmurs. Drew's face contorted with rage as he reached for his phone, likely to call his lawyers. "You can't do this. I founded this company." "Actually," Maya interjected, projecting documents onto the screen behind him. "You co-founded it, using Rebecca Morgan's financial credentials, inheritance, and forged signatures. Speaking of which, federal agents are currently executing search warrants at your private residences and offshore accounts." Olivia's carefully maintained composure shattered. "This is ridiculous. You can't just walk in here and—" "Miss Parker," Elena cut in smoothly. "Or should I say, former chief of staff. The SEC is particularly interested in your role in acquiring technology from your previous employer. Fascinating how their entire database ended up in TechVision's servers, right? Before their mysterious bankruptcy." The color drained from Olivia's face as she realized the depth of our investigation. Security personnel were already moving through the office, changing access codes and securing servers. Drew made one last attempt to salvage his position. "The board can't remove me. I hold controlling interest." "Not anymore," I smiled, signaling Richard to display the ownership charts. As of midnight, 52% of TechVision shares are controlled by Morgan Ventures Holdings, my company. The gathered employees watched in stunned silence as their world shifted. Amanda and her technical team sat straighter, hope replacing fear in their expressions. They'd known the truth about Drew's leadership for months. "Impossible," Drew whispered. "The shares weren't for sale." "Frightened investors, Drew. Your aggressive IPO push, Wheeler's confession, rumors of fraud. It's amazing how quickly people want to cash out when they think a company's about to implode. Fortunately, I was there to buy their shares. At quite a discount, I might add." Security approached Drew and Olivia as Maya continued the announcement. "All employees will be issued new access cards. Project leads will report directly to Sarah Patel, our interim CTO. A full audit of all technical assets and intellectual property will begin immediately." Olivia suddenly lunged for her desk outside the conference room, but Elena's team was faster. One of them held up her laptop already secured. "Looking for the offshore account details, Ms. Parker? Or perhaps the evidence of your private ventures with company funds?" Drew's lawyer burst into the room, but stopped short seeing Maya's preparation. She simply handed him a thick folder of documents. Full evidence of financial fraud, forged signatures, and intellectual property theft. "I'd advise your client to cooperate fully with federal investigators. His only hope for leniency lies in full confession." The employees watched in shock as their former CEO and chief of staff were escorted from the building, their security badges and devices confiscated. News cameras outside captured every moment, Drew's carefully crafted image crumbling in real time. I stepped to the front of the room, facing the people who'd been unwitting pawns in Drew's schemes. "I know this is shocking. You came to work today expecting explanations about Wheeler's accusations. Instead, you're witnessing a complete leadership change. But I promise you this. TechVision's real value lies in your talent, your innovation, and your dedication. That's what we're here to protect and nurture." Amanda stood up, addressing her colleagues. "The technology we've been developing, the real progress we've made, it's genuinely revolutionary. We just needed leadership that would let us do it right." Sarah joined me at the podium, outlining the immediate changes. "All impossible deadlines are suspended. We'll establish realistic timelines for project delivery. Every technical decision will be reviewed by actual engineers, not marketing executives." The tension in the room began to dissipate as employees realized they were being freed from Drew's toxic leadership. Catherine announced increased research budgets and new equity packages. Richard detailed plans for authentic product development. Meanwhile, Elena's team was discovering more evidence by the minute. Drew's office yielded a treasure trove of incriminating documents. It seemed his confidence had made him careless about covering his tracks. Maya handled the press outside, delivering a carefully crafted statement about corporate restructuring and renewed commitment to ethical innovation. The media was already dubbing it the tech vision revolution. In the midst of the chaos, my phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Torres. Offshore accounts frozen. They won't be able to access a penny of their stolen funds. I watched through the window as Drew and Olivia were escorted to separate cars, their dreams of IPO millions evaporating in the morning sun. Security had found the diamond necklace in his desk, his planned celebration gift to her now evidence of misappropriated company funds. The celebration dinner they'd planned at Le Cirque would never happen. Instead, they faced a future of federal investigations, civil lawsuits, and the humiliation of watching the woman they'd underestimated transform their house of cards into a legitimate empire. Catherine appeared at my side, watching the scene unfold. You know, in all my years of corporate takeovers, I've never seen anything quite like this. Drew always said I was too nice for the business world, I replied, turning back to the conference room where employees were already embracing our new vision for the company. He never understood that true power lies in building things, not destroying them. As the dust settled on our corporate coup, I couldn't help but smile at the irony. Drew and Olivia had planned to use my name to steal a company. Instead, they'd given me the perfect opportunity to take back everything they'd tried to steal and build something far greater than they'd ever imagined. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through TechVision's executive suite as I settled into what had been Drew's office. The leather chair still held his cologne, an expensive scent that now seemed as artificial as his corporate persona. Elena burst through the door, her usual composure slightly ruffled. "Drew's gone nuclear," she announced, tossing a legal document onto the desk. "He's filing for an emergency injunction claiming corporate espionage and marital privilege violation. His lawyers are already in front of Judge Harrison." Maya appeared moments later, her expression triumphant rather than concerned. "Let them try. I just got off the phone with the SEC Enforcement Division. They're not just investigating the fraud anymore. They've uncovered a pattern of technology theft going back 3 years. Olivia's previous employers weren't Drew's only victims." My phone lit up with urgent messages. Drew had launched a media offensive, portraying himself as the victim of a vindictive wife's corporate coup. Olivia, playing her part perfectly, was giving tearful interviews about workplace harassment and hostile takeovers. "They're trying to paint me as the villain," I mused, watching their carefully coordinated media appearances. The bitter wife, destroying a brilliant innovator's dreams out of jealousy. Catherine entered, carrying a stack of financial reports. "And they just lost that narrative. Look what we found in the executive compensation records." The documents revealed a shocking pattern. Every time Drew had convinced me to invest more of my inheritance in TechVision, he'd authorized massive bonuses for himself and select executives, including substantial payments to shell companies controlled by Olivia. "There's more," Richard added, rushing in with his laptop. "Remember that startup they bankrupted? Their core technology wasn't just similar to TechVision's products. It was identical. Olivia didn't just steal their code. She orchestrated a complete intellectual property heist." Sarah Patel appeared in the doorway, her expression grim. "The development team just found hidden backdoors in our security systems. Drew and Olivia have been trying to access the servers remotely since this morning. They're desperate to delete evidence." "Too late," Elena smiled. "Every byte of data is already backed up and in the hands of federal investigators. But their attempts to breach the system? That's another criminal charge to add to the list." My phone buzzed again, a message from Amanda. "Emergency situation in the engineering department. You need to see this." The scene in the development lab was chaos. Screens displayed cascading error messages as the team fought to contain what appeared to be a systematic deletion of crucial project files. "It's not Drew," Amanda explained, her fingers flying over the keyboard. It's coming from Olivia's old access credentials. She embedded time-delayed protocols in the system. If she didn't enter a weekly override code, it would trigger an automatic purge. Can you stop it? I asked, watching years of research threatening to vanish. Already done, Sarah announced, emerging from her office with a triumphant grin. We found her backdoor protocol and rewrote it, but that's not the interesting part. She pulled up a series of code fragments on the main screen. This deletion program? It's identical to the one used to destroy evidence at her previous company, before their bankruptcy. Maya was already on her phone. Judge Harrison needs to see this. It proves premeditation in the technology theft case. The media circus outside TechVision's headquarters had grown. Drew's lawyers were giving press conferences, spinning tales of corporate intrigue and marital betrayal. Olivia stood by his side, playing the role of innocent assistant drawn into a personal vendetta. Time to change the narrative, Elena declared. She nodded to Catherine, who opened a secure line to CNBC. Within minutes, the story shifted. Financial. Analysts began dissecting TechVision's true financial state, revealing the extent of Drew's deception. Tech blogs published detailed comparisons between TechVision's patents and the stolen technology from bankrupted startups. Ms. Morgan, my assistant called from the door. There's someone here you need to meet. A man in his early 30s stood in the reception area, his posture radiating nervous energy. My name is Michael Chen, he began. I was the lead developer at Innovate Tech before Olivia Parker joined our company. The room fell silent. Innovate Tech, another startup that had mysteriously failed shortly after Olivia's brief employment there. Let me guess, Maya said softly. She copied your technology, orchestrated your company's financial collapse, and then similar products appeared at TechVision? Michael nodded, pulling out a thumb drive. I kept backups, everything. The original code, the financial records, the mysterious system crashes that corrupted our main servers. I've been waiting for someone to finally expose them. Elena was already calling her team. How many more companies? At least 3 that I know of, Michael replied. We formed a sort of unofficial support group, Tech Companies Destroyed, by Drew Morgan's acquisition strategy. Olivia was his secret weapon. She'd get hired, gain access, then the pattern would repeat. Catherine's phone buzzed with breaking news. The SEC had frozen all personal assets belonging to Drew and Olivia. Their attempt to access offshore accounts had triggered international banking alerts. They're running out of options, Richard observed, monitoring their increasingly desperate media statements. My phone lit up with a message from Drew. We need to talk, just you and me, for old time's sake. He's trying to manipulate you, Maya warned. Classic abuser tactic, when threats fail, try emotional appeal. I showed her my reply. Everything you want to say, you can tell the SEC investigators. Olivia's perfectly crafted facade was cracking. Her latest interview had gone badly wrong when the reporter confronted her with evidence of her pattern of corporate espionage. She'd stormed off set, but not before the cameras caught her mask slipping, revealing the calculating expression beneath. The technical team has recovered something interesting, Sarah announced, bringing up a series of emails on her tablet. Correspondence between Drew and Olivia dating back 4 years. They've been planning this long before she ever joined TechVision. Each company they destroyed was carefully chosen for its technological innovations. Send everything to the FBI's cybercrime division, Maya instructed. This isn't just corporate fraud anymore. It's a pattern of organized criminal activity. The day's final surprise came from an unexpected source. James Wheeler, watching the scandal unfold from his new position of safety, had decided to reveal one last secret. A series of recordings arrived via his lawyer, conversations between Drew and Olivia planning their next technology theft, discussing which startup to target next. They got cocky, Elena observed as we listened to their incriminating conversations. They thought they were untouchable. I stood at the window of my new office, watching the sunset paint the city skyline in shades of gold. On a screen behind me, financial news networks dissected the growing scandal. TechVision's stock value was stabilizing as investors realized the company's true innovation lay in its dedicated development team, not Drew's stolen technology. "You know what the best part is?" Catherine mused, joining me at the window. "They thought they were so clever, using your financial stability to build their house of cards. But in the end, that same financial acumen brought them down." I smiled, thinking of all the times Drew had patronizingly explained business concepts to me, never realizing he was revealing his own fraudulent strategies. "He always said I was too honest for the corporate world." "Honesty," Maya interjected, "backed by intelligence and determination, just took down their entire criminal enterprise. I'd say that makes you exactly right for the corporate world." The federal courthouse steps buzzed with media activity as Drew and Olivia emerged from their emergency injunction hearing. Their confident smirks had vanished, replaced by shell-shocked expressions that told me everything I needed to know before Maya even reached my side. "Judge Harrison not only denied their injunction," Maya announced, her voice carrying across the marble hallway, "but she's referred their filing for sanctions. Apparently, submitting forged documents to a federal court is frowned upon." Drew's high-priced legal team looked defeated as they huddled with their clients. They'd gambled everything on convincing the judge that I had violated marital privilege by using Drew's private communications against him. Instead, they'd walked into a trap of their own making. "The prenup they forged?" Catherine smiled, appearing with a stack of court documents. "It actually invalidated any claim of marital privilege the moment we proved it was fraudulent. Everything they've done for the past 5 years is now admissible evidence." Elena's tablet lit up with breaking news alerts. TechVision's stock, which had been in freefall after Wheeler's initial whistleblower claims, was surging. The market had responded positively to the leadership change and the promise of legitimate innovation under new management. "The technical team just made a breakthrough," Sarah announced, rushing up with her laptop. "We've isolated the original code that Olivia stole from her previous victims. Once we remove their stolen intellectual property, our genuine innovations actually show more promise than the fraudulent versions Drew was marketing." My phone buzzed with an urgent message from Richard. "Turn on CNBC now." The courthouse lobby's television screens came alive with breaking news. The tech industry was reeling from revelations about Drew and Olivia's systematic pattern of corporate espionage. More victims were coming forward, small startups and innovative companies they'd targeted over the years. "Ms. Morgan," reporters called out as we descended the courthouse steps, "how does it feel to expose one of the largest technology fraud schemes in recent history?" Before I could respond, a commotion erupted at the bottom of the steps. James Wheeler had arrived, flanked by federal agents. His face was grim as he approached his former conspirators. "The thing about honor among thieves," he announced loudly, enough for the cameras to catch, "is that it only works if everyone's equally guilty. Did you really think I wouldn't keep insurance against the day you tried to scapegoat me?" Olivia's perfectly maintained facade cracked. "You promised you'd destroyed those recordings." "Like you destroyed the evidence at Innovate Tech?" Wheeler shot back. "Or Quantum Leap Solutions? Or any of the other companies whose technology you helped steal?" Drew lunged for Wheeler, but federal agents stepped between them. The cameras caught everything. The mask of the brilliant tech innovator finally shattering to reveal the desperate fraud beneath. "Ms. Parker," a stern-faced FBI agent approached Olivia, "we have a warrant for your arrest. The Cybercrime Division has some questions about certain encrypted files found on servers at your previous employers." I watched as Olivia was led away, her designer outfit and stolen Cartier bracelet, a stark contrast to the handcuffs now adorning her wrists. The bracelet caught the sunlight, reminding me of all the company funds they'd misappropriated for. Their luxury lifestyle. Back at TechVision headquarters, Amanda and her development team had called an emergency meeting. As I entered the main conference room, the atmosphere was electric with excitement. "We've done it," Amanda announced, pulling up complex technical diagrams. "Once we removed the stolen code and focused on our team's genuine innovations, we discovered something revolutionary. Our actual technology isn't just different from what Drew stole, it's better." Sarah projected market analysis onto the screens. Without the pressure to maintain Drew's fraudulent claims, our engineers have been able to pursue legitimate breakthroughs. The government contracts he jeopardized, we can actually fulfill them now, properly and ethically. My phone hadn't stopped, buzzing all day. Tech industry leaders, venture capitalists, and potential partners were all reaching out. TechVision's redemption story was capturing imaginations and rebuilding trust. "The board just finished their emergency session," Catherine reported, entering with fresh documents. "They voted unanimously to appoint you as permanent CEO. The press release goes out in an hour." Elena's team had been monitoring financial markets worldwide. The company's real value, based on legitimate technology and innovation, is actually higher than Drew's inflated projections. Turns out, honest success is more valuable than fraudulent promises. Maya appeared with another update from the federal investigation. They found Olivia's private servers, every company they targeted, every piece of technology they stole, every fraudulent transaction. She documented everything. Her insurance policy just became the prosecutor's star evidence. A message flashed on my phone, a video clip from a local news station. Drew was being led out of his lawyer's office in handcuffs, his carefully curated image of success replaced by the reality of his crimes. The charges were staggering: fraud, technology theft, conspiracy, money laundering, and securities violations. "There's something poetic about this," Catherine mused, watching the footage. "He spent years stealing other people's innovations, claiming them as his own. Now, his greatest achievement will be serving as a cautionary tale about corporate greed." The day's final victory came from an unexpected source. The startups Drew and Olivia had destroyed weren't just receiving justice, they were being revived. TechVision's board had approved my proposal to establish an innovation fund, offering resources and support to rebuild what Drew had tried to destroy. "Michael Chen from Innovate Tech is already on board," Richard reported. "His team will be leading our new quantum computing division, developing their original technology the right way this time." As evening fell, I stood in my new office, no longer Drew's space, but truly mine. The view of the city skyline reminded me of all the nights I'd spent alone while he worked late with Olivia, plotting their schemes and celebrating their stolen successes. "The SEC wants to use TechVision as a case study," Maya announced, bringing in the day's final reports. Not just about corporate fraud, but about recovery and redemption. They're calling it the Morgan Revolution, how exposing corruption led to genuine innovation. I picked up a framed photo from the desk, Drew and me at TechVision's launch, back when I believed in his dreams. The frame now held a different picture. Our development team celebrating their first legitimate breakthrough, their faces shining, with real pride, not borrowed glory. "You know what Drew never understood?" I said to Maya, watching the city lights begin to twinkle. "True success isn't about stealing someone else's innovations. It's about creating an environment where real innovation can flourish." Elena appeared with one last piece of news. "Olivia's trying to make a deal with prosecutors. She's offering to reveal everything, every company they targeted, every fraud they committed, every scheme they planned." I smiled, thinking of all the times Drew had patronizingly explained business to me, treating me like a corporate trophy wife who couldn't understand his brilliant strategies. He never realized that understanding was exactly what would bring him down. 6 months after the takeover, TechVision's transformation was nothing short of revolutionary. The glass-walled innovation center on the 15th floor hummed with genuine creativity as I walked through on my morning rounds. Engineers who had once lived in fear of impossible deadlines now collaborated freely, their excitement palpable as they developed legitimate breakthroughs. Amanda greeted me at the quantum computing lab, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. "You need to see this," she said, leading me to a testing station where Michael Chen and his reconstructed Innovate Tech team were running simulations. The technology they originally developed, the one Olivia tried to steal, we've helped them take it far beyond their initial concepts. The results on the screen were astounding. By combining Innovate Tech's original innovations with TechVision's resources and talent, we'd created something unprecedented. The government contracts Drew had endangered were now secure, with delivery dates moved up ahead of schedule. The patent office just approved our latest filing, Sarah announced, joining us with fresh documentation. 100% original technology, ethically developed and properly attributed, the complete opposite of how Drew used to operate. My phone lit up with a news alert, another update from the federal investigation. Olivia's plea deal had opened floodgates of evidence, exposing a network of corporate espionage that stretched across the tech industry. The cameras caught her leaving the federal courthouse, her designer wardrobe replaced by modest business attire, the infamous Cartier bracelet notably absent. She's testified against 12 other executives involved in their scheme, Maya reported, appearing with her morning briefing. The industry is still reeling from the revelations. But here's the interesting part. Companies are reaching out to us, asking for help in auditing their technology acquisitions. TechVision is becoming a model for corporate rehabilitation. Catherine's heels clicked across the polished floor as she approached with quarterly reports. The numbers are extraordinary. Without the burden of maintaining Drew's web of lies, our genuine innovation is driving sustainable growth. The market has noticed. Elena's team had transformed an entire floor into a startup incubator, providing resources and mentorship to emerging tech companies. We've vetted 30 promising ventures this month alone, she explained, leading me through the bustling space. Every one of them chosen for their legitimate innovations, not their potential for exploitation. The contrast with Drew's leadership style couldn't have been starker. Where he had seen young companies as targets to be stripped of their innovations, we saw partners in building a more ethical tech ecosystem. The developers who had once lived in fear of impossible deadlines now thrived in an environment of genuine collaboration. "Ms. Morgan," my assistant called out, "Time magazine is here." For the interview, the journalist was already set up in the conference room, her eyes taking in the transformation of what had once been Drew's private domain. The space now featured transparent glass walls and collaborative workstations, a physical manifestation of our new corporate culture. 6 months ago, TechVision was embroiled in one of the biggest technology fraud scandals in recent history, she began. Today, you're being hailed as a pioneer in ethical innovation. How did you manage such a dramatic transformation? I glanced at the wall of achievements, not stolen patents or fraudulent awards, but genuine recognition for our team's breakthroughs. By remembering something Drew forgot, real innovation comes from nurturing talent, not exploiting it. A commotion outside drew our attention. Through the glass walls, we could see Richard rushing toward us with breaking news on his tablet. The SEC had just announced expanded charges against Drew, encompassing years of systematic fraud and technology theft. "The interesting part isn't the charges," Richard explained, pulling up detailed reports. "It's the response from the tech community. Companies are implementing what they're calling the TechVision Protocol, enhanced due diligence measures to prevent technology theft and promote ethical innovation." My phone buzzed with a message from Michael Chen. "Quantum processing. Test successful. Beyond anything we dreamed possible at Innovate Tech. Thank you for giving us a second chance." I smiled, remembering how Drew used to mock my insistence on ethical business practices. He'd called it naive, a weakness that had no place in the cutthroat tech industry. Now his strategic genius was being taught in business schools as a case study in how not to build a company. The Women's Leadership Summit called again, my assistant mentioned. They want you to deliver the keynote address on transforming corporate culture. The irony wasn't lost on me. Drew had spent years trying to keep me away from tech visions, operations, claiming I wouldn't understand the complexities of the tech industry. Now, under my leadership, the company was achieving the innovation he had only pretended to create. Sarah appeared with another update from the development team. Remember that breakthrough Amanda's team was working on? The one Drew said was impossible without cutting corners? They've done it, ethically, properly, and better than anyone thought possible. The afternoon brought a visit from a group of young female entrepreneurs, part of our new mentorship program. As I shared our story of transformation, I saw in their eyes the same passion for innovation that had driven me to expose Drew's fraud and rebuild Tech Vision. The key to success isn't taking shortcuts or stealing others' work, I told them, gesturing to the bustling innovation center beyond the glass walls. It's creating an environment where genuine creativity can flourish. Elena joined us with market analysis, showing Tech Vision's stock reaching new highs. Not based on stolen technology or fraudulent promises, but on legitimate innovations and sustainable growth. The market has learned to tell the difference between real value and inflated promises, she noted. As evening approached, I stood in my office, now a symbol of ethical leadership rather than corrupted power. The city skyline sparkled beyond the windows, but my attention was drawn to the framed magazine cover on my wall. Tech Vision's Renaissance: How a Corporate Scandal Led to Revolutionary Change. Maya appeared with the day's final report. The forensic accountants finished their complete audit. Every trace of Drew and Olivia's fraud has been identified and corrected. Tech Vision is officially clean. I picked up a small box from my desk. Inside, a simple silver pin given to every employee during our transformation celebration. Its inscription read, "Innovation through integrity." You know what the best revenge is? I asked Maya, looking out at the city lights. Not just succeeding where they failed, but proving that everything they thought impossible, ethical success, sustainable innovation, genuine leadership, was achievable all along. They just lacked the integrity to try. 2 years after the takeover, I sat in the witness gallery of the federal courthouse, watching as the judge delivered Drew's sentence. The man who had once commanded boardrooms with charismatic confidence now stood diminished in his prison-issued jumpsuit, his perfectly styled hair grown out, his trademark smirk replaced by grim resignation. The court sentences Andrew Morgan to 15 years in federal prison, the judge announced, her voice carrying authority through the packed courtroom. Additionally, the defendant is ordered to pay restitution of $157 million to the companies and individuals harmed by his systematic fraud and technology theft. Olivia sat on the opposite side of the courtroom, awaiting her own sentencing. Her plea deal had earned her a reduced sentence, but the price was steep. Complete cooperation with federal investigators and forfeiture of every asset gained through their schemes. The Cartier bracelet had been sold at auction, the proceeds going to a fund for tech startups devastated by their crimes. Outside the courthouse, Elena met me with fresh market reports. Tech Vision's stock had hit another record high following the announcement of our latest breakthrough, genuine innovation developed by our reformed research team. The industry analysts can't stop talking about the Tech Vision effect, she explained, as we walked to the car. Companies are overhauling their acquisition practices, implementing ethical innovation protocols. Your transformation of the company has become a Harvard Business School case study. My phone buzzed with messages from the development team. Amanda's quantum computing division had just achieved another milestone, legitimate progress that exceeded anything Drew had tried to steal. Michael Chen and his reconstructed Innovate Tech team were revolutionizing the field. proving that ethical innovation could outpace fraudulent shortcuts. The Startup Incubator program has its first graduates, Sarah reported, joining us with tablet in hand. 3 companies ready to launch, all built on genuine innovation and ethical business practices. They're already being called the new wave of tech leadership. Catherine waited at TechVision's headquarters with more updates. The board had approved our latest initiative, a foundation dedicated to protecting small tech companies from corporate predators. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The very system Drew had exploited was being transformed into a shield for innovative startups. The FBI's Tech Crimes Unit wants to feature TechVision in their training programs, Maya announced, entering with a fresh stack of documents. Apparently, our recovery from corporate fraud has become a template for industry rehabilitation. A news alert flashed across the office screens. Olivia's sentencing had concluded. 7 years in federal prison, followed by a lifetime ban from holding corporate positions. The cameras caught her being led away, her designer wardrobe replaced by standard prison gear, her carefully crafted image of corporate sophistication shattered. "There's something you should see," Richard said, pulling up surveillance footage from Drew's last day of freedom. The video showed him in his private office, frantically shredding documents and deleting files, not realizing that every piece of evidence was already secured. His desperation was palpable as his empire crumbled around him. "Remember this?" Elena asked, displaying an old company newsletter featuring Drew and Olivia announcing her promotion to chief of staff. The photo that had first revealed their affair now seemed like a relic from another era, their smug confidence replaced by public disgrace. The afternoon brought a visit from James Wheeler, now working as a corporate compliance consultant after serving his reduced sentence. "You've done more than expose fraud," he observed, surveying the transformed office space. "You've created a blueprint for ethical business practices in the tech industry." My phone lit up with another message, this time from the dean of a prestigious business school. They wanted me to deliver a series of lectures on corporate ethics and innovation. The topic: the Morgan Revolution, transforming corporate culture through ethical leadership. "The tech blogs are calling it the end of an era," Sarah noted, showing me the latest industry analyses. "The old model of predatory acquisition and technology theft is dying. Companies are realizing that genuine innovation, while harder, creates sustainable value." A knock at my office door revealed Amanda with the development team's latest breakthrough. "Remember how Drew said this was impossible without stealing competitor technology? We've just proved him wrong. Completely original innovation, ethically developed and properly documented." The view from my office, once Drew's sanctuary of deception, now overlooked a transformed corporate landscape. The pressure of maintaining his web of lies had been replaced by the excitement of genuine discovery. Engineers who had once lived in fear of impossible deadlines now collaborated openly, their creativity unleashed. "Ms. Morgan," my assistant called, "the 40 under 40 photographers are here for your cover shoot. They want to feature the Innovation Center in the background." As I prepared for the photo shoot, Maya brought one final piece of news. The SEC had just announced expanded regulations inspired by TechVision's reformation. The Morgan Protocols, they called them, guidelines for identifying and preventing corporate fraud while fostering ethical innovation. "You know what Drew never understood?" I mused to Maya as we watched the photographers set up. "True power isn't about stealing other people's success. It's about creating an environment where everyone can succeed ethically." The day ended with a company-wide celebration, not of Drew's conviction or Olivia's sentencing, but of our latest technological breakthrough. The development team had achieved something remarkable: innovation that surpassed anything Drew had tried to steal, created through collaboration and integrity rather than deception. As I raised a toast to our success, I caught sight of my reflection in the office windows. The woman Drew had dismissed as too naive for corporate leadership had transformed his house of lies into a beacon of ethical innovation. The corporate trophy wife he'd tried to deceive had become a symbol of industry reformation. The best revenge, I told the assembled. Tomta Abi isn't just succeeding where they failed. It's proving that everything they thought required deception could be achieved through integrity. We haven't just survived their fraud, we've rendered their entire approach obsolete. 5 years had transformed more than just TechVision's corporate culture. Standing at the podium of the Global Innovation Summit, I surveyed an audience filled with tech industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and ambitious young developers. The story they'd come to hear wasn't just about corporate revenge. It was about revolutionizing an entire industry's approach to innovation and ethics. 5 years ago, I began, I discovered my husband's betrayal through a company newsletter announcing his secretary's promotion. Today, that discovery has led to the complete reformation of how we approach technology development and corporate ethics. The massive screen behind me displayed real-time data from TechVision's global innovation centers. Each location represented a hub of genuine technological advancement, places where creativity flourished without the pressure of fraudulent expectations or stolen innovations. Amanda, now our Chief Innovation Officer, joined me on stage to present our latest breakthrough. The quantum computing platform that Drew had tried to steal from others had evolved into something far beyond his limited vision. Under ethical leadership and genuine innovation, we'd achieved what his fraudulent shortcuts never could. The numbers tell the story, Elena announced, presenting our latest market analysis. TechVision's legitimate innovations have generated more value in 5 years than a decade of Drew's fraudulent schemes. The market has learned to recognize and reward authentic technological advancement. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Another update about Drew's life in federal prison. He'd been denied early release again. His attempts to claim rehabilitation undermined by evidence that he'd tried to run investment scams from behind bars. Old habits died hard. Olivia had taken a different path after her release. Last I heard, she was working as a junior administrative assistant at a small company in the Midwest, her dreams of corporate glamour replaced by the reality of life as a convicted felon. The infamous Cartier bracelet had become a cautionary tale in ethics seminars. The TechVision Foundation has supported 50 startups in the past year alone, Catherine reported during the summit's innovation showcase. Each one built on legitimate technology, protected from the kind of predatory practices that Drew and Olivia once employed. Maya appeared with fresh statistics from our corporate reform initiative. Major tech companies worldwide had adopted our ethical innovation protocols, transforming industry practices. The era of predatory acquisition and technology theft was ending, replaced by collaborative development and genuine advancement. Remember this? Sarah asked, displaying an old photo from Drew's era. Him standing proudly before a board showing stolen innovations he'd claimed as his own. The contrast with today's TechVision couldn't have been starker. Our development labs hummed with authentic creativity, each breakthrough properly documented and ethically achieved. Michael Chen, once a victim of Drew and Olivia's schemes, now led our quantum research division. His team's legitimate innovations had surpassed anything the fraudsters had tried to steal. We're not just developing technology anymore, he explained, to visiting investors. We're proving that ethical innovation is the most profitable path forward. The afternoon brought a tour of our startup incubator, where young companies once targeted by corporate predators now found protection and support. Each workspace showcased genuine innovation, their achievements a testament to what could be accomplished, without resorting to theft and fraud. Ms. Morgan, a young engineer called out during the innovation showcase, your story inspired me to blow the whistle on corruption at my previous company. Thanks to TechVision's legal defense fund, we were able to protect our innovations. Richard joined me for the summit's closing panel, bringing news of industry-wide changes. The Morgan protocols aren't just corporate guidelines anymore, he explained. They're becoming regulatory standards. The SEC is implementing them as mandatory practices for tech industry compliance. Evening found me in my office, preparing for a global video conference with our international innovation centers. The city lights sparkled beyond the windows, but my attention was drawn to a different kind of illumination. The bright minds collaborating across continents, developing technology the right way. The University Partnership Program is exceeding expectations, Elena reported during the conference. Students who once might have been drawn into corporate fraud are instead learning about ethical innovation and sustainable development. A message flashed on my screen, the tech industry's annual ethics awards. Tech Vision had swept every category. Our transformation from fraud-ridden corporation to innovation leader hailed as a blueprint for corporate reformation. You've created more than a company, Catherine observed as we reviewed the awards. You've sparked a movement. Every tech startup now has a choice. Follow Drew's path of theft and deception, or embrace the proven success of ethical innovation. The summit's final day brought an unexpected visitor, James Wheeler, now a prominent advocate for corporate reform. I spent years helping Drew steal others' innovations, he admitted to the audience. Now I help companies protect themselves from people like him. The industry needed this change. My phone lit up with another achievement, our legitimate quantum computing breakthrough had just received patent approval. The innovation Drew had tried to steal through fraud had been surpassed by genuine research and development. Our team's celebration was sweeter for its authenticity. As the summit concluded, I stood once more at the podium, looking out over the next generation of tech leaders. 5 years ago, a corporate newsletter exposed more than an affair between a CEO and his secretary. It revealed a system of fraud and theft that had infected our industry. Today, we stand as proof that ethical innovation isn't just morally right. It's the most successful business strategy. The applause that followed wasn't just for TechVision's transformation. It was for every startup that could now innovate without fear of predatory theft, every engineer free to create without pressure to cut ethical corners, every entrepreneur inspired to build success on genuine innovation rather than stolen dreams. As I gathered my materials, Maya appeared with one final piece of news. A prestigious business school had adopted our story as their core case study in corporate ethics. Future generations of business leaders would learn how one woman's discovery of betrayal led to the reformation of an entire industry. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.